Hey guys, and welcome back. So today we're going to go a little bit more in depth about Latias because later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern time for us here in New York City, Latias is going to be coming through to raids for the weekend. In case you guys haven't seen yesterday's video, in which my hype was pretty insane. Oh, sorry, not yesterday's video. The day before. Um, Latias was announced, and it's going to be having a shiny variant. So, um, this is pretty sweet because I feel I'm more calmer than I was in that last video. So I'm gonna be able to go more in depth because I felt like I rushed that video a little too much. So I decided to make another a full Latias raid guide, and we're gonna be talking about basically more on how to counter it and all that fun stuff. So before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment if you guys are excited for Shiny Latias to come to the game. Because you already know I'm hella excited for this one, and for Latios in the future, which we know for sure is going to be coming. So because they already stated that Latios is going to get his own weekend soon coming through soon. So yeah. In addition to Latias coming out, we're also going to be having the we're gonna have the Clan Peril event happening on Saturday, so definitely keep that in mind. So that's gonna be pretty cool. So new entry and new shiny as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So this guide is really directed to people that are going for their first Latias, or for those that are curious as to what are the best counters against Latias. Well, here we go. So let's get started. So as you know, Latias is going to be a level 5 raid boss with a raid boss CP of 48,080. It's going to be a dragon and psychic type Pokemon, which means it's going to be having 6 weaknesses which we're going to talk about here right about now. Honestly, it's going to be weak 2, Dark Dragon, Fairy, Bug, Ghost, and Ice. So, and as you see here, Latias is going to have a shiny variant, which is going to be a bit of a goldish or orange color, which it looks really sweet. Um, so that looks pretty cool, and it's weather boosted by windy weather. So just so you guys are aware, so there you go. So 100% IV for a non-boosted Latias is going to be 2006. And then for a weather booster, if you have windy weather, Latias is going to be boosted by windy, being dragon, and psychic types. So both of those types are going to be boosted by the windy weather. You're going to be looking for 2507 for weather boost. So if it's not boosted, 2006. If it's weather boosted, you're going to be looking for 2507. So pretty cool stuff because back then when Latias first came out, 100% was 1929. And yeah, so Latias, I definitely have a lot of story with this one. So I'm gonna show you guys my Latias collection later on in this video. So stay tuned for that because I already have Latias from when it first came out. But what I'm excited about with this go round is going to be shiny hunting for this one and also getting a challenge done against this Pokemon as well. So it has a 100% maxes out at 3,510. Attack is 228, defense is 246, and stamina is 190. So Latias is going to be a fairly tanky Pokemon. It's going to be very hard to like a duo without the wind boost. I feel like it's not going to be possible because that defense is pretty high. I think with the wind boost, I think it might be doable, but it's going to be a very tough, really hard challenge if you ask me. But all that will be seen soon enough. So, anyways, as a Pokemon, now let's go ahead and take a look at its moves before we go to the counters. So, as you guys already know, Latias is weak to the types I already mentioned before. So, here's the moves. So, Latias gets Dragon Breath and Zen Hepa as its quick moves, and for charge moves, it's going to be getting Psychic, Outrage, and Thunder. So, out of these moves, Thunder is going to be the easiest moveset because it's going to be doing the least amount of damage, and one of the supreme counters is going to be taking very little damage, which we're going to go into that as well. However, if Latias is going to be packing Outrage, like Palkia, if Latias has Outrage, the dragon type move, definitely going to want to stay away using the dragons as well. If you use Gengar, you definitely want the Latias has Psychic, definitely best to stay away from Gengar for sure. And if you use Articuno, if Latias has Thunder, definitely want to stay away from that as well. So Latias is not going to be as strong as Latios, but Latias is going to be pretty defensive. And in PvP, it's going to be really good because it has Dragon Breath, which is going to do some pretty considerable amount of damage, and plus combining that with Outrage, you're gonna have yourself a pretty strong dragon for PvP. Not for raids in particular, because there are better dragon types in the game. So, but Latias definitely has her role in PvP for sure. So I'm hoping to get a few Latias, at least one Latias for the Great League. Though I might have a Latias I might already be able to use for the Great League, so that might not be necessary. But in general, Latias is not bad. If you actually want to spend the Stardust to get a secondary move, you definitely want to go Psychic. Thunder is not really that useful. I mean, it's good against the water types. It's good against Pokemon like Charizard, I suppose. But other than that, it's not really necessary. Ideally, you want Outrage as your charge move. If you don't want to get the secondary move, then you definitely want Dragon Breath and Outrage for the Dragon typing move. So yeah. So, anyways, let's go into the counters here. So, first off, we're going to talk about the Supreme counters here. So, these are the top 6 Pokemon you want to use against Latias. So, let's get started. So, Rayquaza, Dragon Tail, and Outrage. Best Dragon type. It does the most DPS out of these 6 Pokemon, out of all these, and it does super well against Latias. All these except the Mamoswine, which all definitely stay away from these if Latias has Outrage. Other than that, dragons are going to be really good against Latias. And speaking of dragons, Palkia actually gets a good mention here with Dragon Tail and Dragometer, which makes sense because Palkia is actually better than Solomon's in every aspect. So Palkia is going to actually prove to be really strong against Latias. So that's not a bad choice either. Dragonite with Dragon Tail Outrage is also pretty good. It's not as strong as Rayquaza, but it can definitely survive longer in the fight. So Dragonite definitely has a pretty strong role here. Latios with Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, my boy, is actually going to be really good against Latias because Latios here actually does resist Psychic and Thunder, being Dragon and Psychic as well. So basically the same typing as Latias has is going to also prove to be really good against Latias because Latios will be able to resist the Thunder and it will be able to resist Psychic. So that's good to keep in mind. So if you have a Latios, definitely throw it in there. Name it Latios NYC. I'm just kidding. But Latios is definitely not a bad choice at all, considering it will resist 2 of Latias's 3 charge moves, being the Psychic and Thunder, being able to resist both of those. So, but be careful if Latias has Outrage. That goes for all the Dragon types. So, Solomon's with Dragon Tail Dracometer is definitely a pretty strong choice, especially if you don't have the other ones. You can always use Solomon's as well. It's definitely not a bad choice whatsoever. Just because there are some of these top contender dragons doesn't mean that they're not the only best counters. There are other Pokemon you can use, which we're gonna go over in this video as well. So for those of you who may be telling me, oh, I don't have Rayquaza, I don't have Dragonites, I don't have all that stuff that you have. Stop rubbing it in. Don't worry, there's plenty of choices that you guys can use for sure. And currently, Palkia is a raid boss, so everybody should have access to Palkia currently at this time, considering Palkia is pretty strong and it's obtainable currently at the moment. So, and then other than that, Dragonite, we definitely have had it for a while. So, and then finally, Mamoswine gets a mention as a supreme counter. Mamoswine is going to be doing extra. Is actually going to be the only Pokemon out of these 6 that's actually going to not be taking super effective damage from Outrage. So Mamoswine is going to win the role there. And if Latias has Thunder, Mamoswine is going to take 50% less damage from Thunder, being a ground type. So it's going to be really good. And it's going to be able to hit Latias super effectively with those ice type moves. So you're definitely going to want the Powder Snow Avalanche. So it's going to be doing really well against Latias, especially if Latias packs the Thunder. So keep that in mind. So these are your top contender, your supreme counters against Latias. So now, while these are the 6 best Pokemon to take on Latias with, there are some other counters you can go to. So we're going to go into great counters here. So first, we're going to go to great counters here. They list Weavile here, which Weavile is not bad for sure with Feint Attack and Avalanche. Weavile and Tyranitar, which we're going to talk about both of these two. These two both take 50% less damage from Psychic. So these are going to be really good, especially if Latias has Psychic. And Tyranitar is going to also do really well against Latias in particular, because Tyranitar, while it doesn't do the most DPS, it does survive in the fight pretty decently well. So definitely want to consider using Tyranitar. If you don't have the top contenders, Tyranitar is definitely not a bad choice with the Bite Crunch. So, and it's going to be able to take it's going to take 50% less damage from that Psychic. So keep that in mind. Weavile is just like Tyranitar. Weavile is going to take 50% less damage from Psychic, but keep in mind Weavile is going to be a bit of a glass cannon. So if you do use Weavile, be aware of that. So you may faint pretty quickly. So same goes to Gengar too with Sucker Punch and Shadow Ball. If you have Lick or Shadow Claw as your fast move, those are going to be really good as well. But keep in mind, if Latias has Zen Headbutt on it, your Gengar is going to go down pretty quickly, especially if it's paired with either Outrage or Psychic. Because Outrage, while it might not be super effective on Gengar, it's going to be neutral and it's going to do a decent amount to Gengar. So even if it's Zen Headbutt Outrage, it's going to still... I think with Zen Headbutt and Outrage alone, with just one Outrage after a few Zen Headbutts, will definitely take out Gengar. So keep that in mind. But other than that, Gengar's not a bad choice, especially if you're facing Latias that has Thunder. Gengar is not bad either because it's gonna do a lot of it's gonna offer a lot of DPS. But keep in mind, if Latias has Zen Headbutt combined with Outrage or Psychic, definitely want to stay away from Gengar. But other than that, it's not a bad choice whatsoever. And then finally on the great counters we have Mewtwo with Confusion and Shadow Ball. Mewtwo's not bad because it does resist Psychic. It takes neutral from Outrage and Thunder, so Mewtwo's not a bad choice at all if you don't as a general attacker. Ideally, you want you will want Psycho Cut so you can get the Shadow Balls going a lot quicker. But if you feel Confusion's a little bit better for you, then go roll with that. That's not a bad choice either. So, but I personally like Psycho Cut because it does get the Shadow Balls going a lot quicker than Confusion. So just keep just a little mindset, just so you guys are well aware of that. So now let's go down to the good counters here. So it actually lists Latias with Dragon Breath Outreach, but we're not going to include that because, well, if you have Latias like I do, go for it, And then next we have Jinx, aka Nicki Minaj, with Frost Breath and Avalanche. Jinx is not bad, because it's gonna resist the Psychic, but it's going to be a glass cannon, so keep that in mind. So it's gonna go down fairly quickly, so definitely want to keep that in mind. Other than that, Jinx does have some pretty decent DPS. It's just that it's not gonna be surviving long in the fight at all, really. So keep that in mind. Houndoom here is not a bad choice either. Snarl Foul Play takes 50% less damage from Psychic, being a Dark type. So keep that in mind. It's gonna be neutral to Outrage and Thunder, and Houndoom is not really as tanky as the other Pokemon, so it may faint pretty quickly. So if you use Houndoom, I recommend it usually against Psychic. But other than that, it's not too bad. Definitely throw it on your team if you don't have any of the top contenders. Houndoom's not a bad choice either. Pinsir is not bad. Pinsir nor Scizor are not bad either. With Pinsir with Bug Bite and X Scissor, it's not going to resist any of Latias's moves, but I guess it's there as a choice there. Then you have Scizor with Fury Cutter, X Scissor. Scizor is actually a bit better than Pinsir in my opinion because it is part Steel, and Steel does resist Psychic. So, and it also resists Outrage, which I just realized. Being a Steel type, it's going to be able to resist two of Latias's charge moves, being the Psychic and the Outrage. So keep that in mind because Scizor is definitely not a bad choice whatsoever. So really good, really good choice personally. If you don't have the top contender, Scizor is definitely a pretty solid choice. So, and then finally, the new Rampardos here get to mention with Smackdown and Outrage. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it because I don't think it's gonna be doing as much much damage as the other Pokemon. But there are some other Pokemon which they actually haven't listed on this chart here, which I'm gonna go over once I load into Pokemon Go. So just so you guys are well aware of what Pokemon there are, like, these Pokemon are some good choices that they have here. There are some other Pokemon that they haven't mentioned on here that actually should be mentioned, in my opinion. But nonetheless, they definitely GoHub definitely did a great job mentioning these Pokemon. So huge shout out to them. But other than that, these are the counters you want to focus your focus on when it comes to Latias. Now, keep in mind, Latias is going to be available for the weekend until Monday. So once Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific time rolls around, Latias is going to be gone. So keep that in mind. You're going to have 3 days to catch yourself a Latias. And keep in mind, if you happen to encounter a shiny Latias, then that's going to be 100% catch rate. So I would definitely advise you to pineapple it because it's going to be 100% catch rate. So if you get a shiny, it's a guaranteed catch. So congratulations if you do get a shiny. I know I'm going to be grinding pretty hard for that shiny, so keep that in mind for sure. So there you go, guys. Those are the counters you definitely want to consider using against Latias here. It's going to definitely take advantage of those weaknesses. For me, I'm going to be pursuing the shiny and hopefully get a challenge done against this one. May get a trio done most likely for day one, possibly if I find a third person. Otherwise, I'm gonna try it for a duo on Sunday since Sunday might be windy. But other than that, there you go, guys. Latias and the counters as well. Just a reminder: if you see 2006, that's 100%, and if it's non-boosted, and if it's weather boosted, you're gonna be looking for 2507. So, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and log into Pokemon Go and we'll go ahead and we're gonna set a team. I'm gonna show you my team, what I'm gonna be using against Latias myself, and I'm gonna select, and then we're gonna just go over that as well. So I will see you guys there on Pokemon Go. All right, guys. So we are on the game now. So let's go ahead and go into the Pokemon here. So we're gonna go ahead now and go to our team for Latias here. So this is going to be my personal team. I'm gonna be using against Latias as well. I actually just powered up. Not fully maxed out, but I have maxed out my a lucky Rayquaza, which if you guys haven't been following me on Twitter, I got that from a trade, so really excited about that. So I actually now have four Rayquazas powered up. They're at least level 39. And then I have two Dragonites as well. Those are my top best Dragonites I have. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna actually change. We're gonna actually ditch this team just for temporarily because we're gonna go ahead and build a team to basically prepare everybody for Latias. So this is just gonna be a bit of a draft on Pokemon you want to use against Latias. So let's go ahead and pick some Pokemon here. So first things first, your dragons are going to be really good for sure. But again, if Latias does have Outrage, your dragon types are not going to be doing well. You're going to be dying fairly quickly because Outrage is going to be coming out consistently. So definitely keep that in mind if you happen to encounter that with Outrage. So I'm gonna put one Rayquaza here because it's gonna be your best contender. However, there is if it does have Outrage, I always would like to use a Dark type on the team because at least like while Outrage is gonna do a decent amount it's gonna be doing considerable amount of damage. I still would like a Dark type on my team at least so it can in case if Latias has the Zen Headbutt paired with it, it's gonna be able to survive long. Like Tyranitar, for example, is gonna be one of those best choices because if Latias, let's say, has Zen Headbutt, it's going to take 50% less damage from the Zen Headbutt, and then it's going to be able to survive a bit longer, so you'll be able to get off a few, barely get off that last crunch before you faint down, so it's not too bad there overall. So, Tyranitar is definitely a good choice there. Latios is definitely a good mention as well, because Latios like I mentioned before, it does have it does resist the psychic and thunder, so Latios is definitely a fairly good choice there. Now, one Pokemon that they didn't mention on their list, which I think is not a bad choice at all in the long run here, it's actually going to be the Metagross. Now, the reason why I think Metagross is not a bad choice with Bullet Punch and Meteor Mash is because Metagross resists two of Latias moves. One of them being Psychic, being able to take 50% less damage, being a Steel and Psychic type. So you're gonna be resisting a lot of that Psychic really well, and you're gonna be resisting Outrage. So with Metagross, you'll survive a bit longer than most of the other Pokemon, like for example Tyranitar. While Tyranitar and Metagross basically both resist Psychic, they both take 50% less from Psychic. With Metagross being able to resist, being a Steel Psychic type, being able to resist it really well, and Tyranitar being a Dark type, taking 50% less. In that regards, my opinion, Metagross is slightly better just because it does put out some pretty strong DPS as a generalist attacker, and it does resist Outrage pretty well. So if it has Outrage, Metagross, not a bad choice in any shape, form, or fashion because it's definitely never been a bad choice, honestly. So definitely want to consider a Metagross I mean, and even if you don't have flat Meteor Mash, Flash Cannon's not bad either, but I wouldn't recommend it. But I would use Metagross only if it has the Meteor Mash, which was its community move for a Beldum. So just so you guys are aware. And next mention obviously is going to be that Mamoswine with the Powder Snow and Avalanche. Being able to take 50% less damage from Thunder is going to be pretty good. Um, well, for me anyways, because I do have some plans for a challenge against Latias once it comes. But that's not. But that's going to be coming through pretty soon. But Mamoswine is definitely not a bad choice as well. You could also use Rhyperior with Smackdown and Stone Edge, being able to resist, take 50% less from Thunder. So just a decent choice there, but I wouldn't really use it personally. But that's just me, really. Um, you know, Groudon with Dragon Tail Earthquake is actually not bad against Latias at all either. Groudon actually does take 50% less damage from Thunder and can actually deal some pretty considerable damage because in this game, in Pokemon Go, Latias, like in the regular games, Latias has access to a ability called Levitate, which makes it take no damage from ground type moves. But that doesn't apply here in Pokemon Go. So Groudon's not a bad choice at all against Latias either, especially if Groudon has the Dragon Tail. It's not going to be doing as much like as the top contenders, but Groudon's not bad because and Groudon can do some pretty considerable damage there with that Dragon Tail being super effective on Latias. And if Latias has Thunder, it can also take 50% less damage from that as well. So, if you don't have anything on top of those there, I would recommend Groudon with Dragon Tail Earthquake just as one choice as well too, and as another ground type because the ground types will take 50% less damage from the Thunder, so definitely keep that in mind if you're using Groudon there. Mewtwo is a generous Pokemon here. You definitely will want Psycho Cut, Shadow Ball for sure, but keep in mind Shadow Ball is Legacy, so if you don't happen to have Shadow Ball Mewtwo, you can also go with Ice Beam because Ice Beam will still be super effective on Latias just as well, and it does just as well as Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball slightly out it does better, but Ice Beam is definitely still not bad with Mewtwo. So if you don't have a Shadow Ball Mewtwo, which is Legacy, you can still rock out Ice Beam, which will still be super effective on Latias nonetheless. So keep that in mind as well on that regards. Again, Palkia is good too with Dragon Tail, Draco Meteor. Gengar with Lick, Shadow Ball, or Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball are going to be really good there. Which both of those moves are Legacy. If you don't have that, Sucker Punch, Shadow Ball is not bad either. But again, with Gengar's case, definitely want to be careful if Latias has that Psychic, or if its quick move happens to be the Zen Headbutt, because then Gengar is going to be fainting pretty quickly. So keep that in mind. Other than that, Gengar's not a bad choice whatsoever. Alolan Exeggutor is actually not a bad choice either with Dragon Tail, Dragon Pulse. It'll take 50% less damage from Thunder as well, being Grass and Dragon. So, but it does take neutral damage from Psychic and will just get one-shotted by Outrage. So keep that in mind as well. But other than that, it's not a bad choice at all. Now, another Pokemon that I think is not a bad choice at all against Latias is Gardevoir. Now, the reason why I say Gardevoir is not a bad choice either is because Gardevoir takes 50% less damage from that Outrage, and it resists Psychic, being a Psychic type. So definitely keep that in mind. And the Fairy typing is going to be extremely useful if Latias does pack that Outrage, because you're going to be able to survive really well in the fight, considering Latias is not going to be as strong as the other Dragon types, so Gardevoir is going to be helping you out really well in that regard. So if it's Outrage, then Gardevoir is going to be really well. It's going to do you really well. Personally, moveset wise, I will go Charge Beam and Dazzling Gleam. Confusion is definitely you will do more damage, but Charge Beam will get your, in my opinion, Charge Beam will get your Dazzling Gleams going a bit quicker. So Gardevoir definitely a good mention there as well. So another good Pokemon that I think you guys can also rock out with as well once I find it is of course let's just scroll down a little bit. Togekiss. Togekiss with Air Slash Dazzling Gleam is gonna take 50% less damage from that Latias with Outrage as well. But do be careful if Latias does pack the Thunder, then Togekiss is going to be taking super effective damage from Thunder. I don't think it's going to OHKO, but it will still do a pretty considerable amount of damage. Now, if Latias does have that combination of Dragon Breath and Thunder, Togekiss should be able to survive at least one Thunder before. Um, it will probably take two Thunders for Togekiss to go down. But other than that, Togekiss is definitely not a bad choice at all in the slightest. Heracross is also not bad if you happen to have it. Good for you because he's actually not bad against Latias. But be careful if Latias does pack the Psychic in that regards. But other than that, Heracross is not a bad choice either. Let's see what else. What's another good choice? Again, Dark type wise, you could also go with Pokemon like Weavile, with any of it if it's with its Dark or Ice type moves. So that's another good choice there in that regards. We spoke about Gardevoir already. If you have Mew with Shadow Claw, Dark Pulse, or Shadow Claw, Dragon Claw, that's not bad either. As a filler as one there. We already talked about Groudon there. Kyogre with Blizzard's not too bad as well. But just like Togekiss, if Latias does have Thunder, Kyogre's going to take a lot of damage. So definitely keep that in mind. Metagross definitely is not a bad choice either. Like I mentioned before, so another good choice there as well. Ideally you want your dragons as well. Raikou is actually not as decent now with Shadow Ball, since Raikou does get access to Shadow Ball now. So Raikou's not a bad choice either. However, if you don't have those top contenders, those top Pokemon here, there are some other Pokemon here we can use. We can throw in as well. Cloyster is one of those. You can throw that in there, but it's not going to be doing too well, unlike the top contenders there. But Cloyster is not a bad choice either, so keep that in mind. Scyther is okay as well, but it's going to die to Thunder pretty quickly, being a flying type. And in general, it's not going to be surviving too well. So I'm just throwing out a few other Pokemon here that can also do pretty well here. Honchkrow is actually not a bad choice either, because Honchkrow will take 50% less damage from the Psychic, being that Dark type, but it does have the weakness of getting one-shotted by Thunder, so keep that in mind. Alolan Muck is actually not a bad choice either, being Poison and Dark. It should be if my memory it serves me well, it should be taking 50% less damage from the Psychic, being even though it is part Poison, it'll still survive longer in the fight because it is part Dark, so keep that in mind. Flygon is also pretty good. It's gonna take 50% less damage from Thunder, but will be one-shotted by the Outrage, right? Like immediately, just in case. So do keep that in mind. Lucario with Shadow Ball is not bad. Bullet Punch Shadow Ball, I suppose, is not a bad choice at all. It also gets Shadow Ball. So it does get Shadow Ball, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't use Sharpedo. It is super effective on Latias with the Dark typing, but it's definitely a Glass Cannon for sure. As we already spoke about, Weavile is a good choice as well. But yeah, there you have it, guys. So you guys get an idea of some Pokemon you can use here. I do apologize. This video is super long here. But you guys get the idea of some Pokemon you can use. So there's always some good choices against this Pokemon here. But anyways, guys, I do apologize for this video being super long, but just want to make sure you guys are ready. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment if you guys enjoyed this video. And good luck with your shiny hunts later today. I'm hoping to acquire shiny Latias day 1. That would be pretty sweet if I can. So with that, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck to everybody. And until next time, Latias NYC signing out.